Yeah, you do. What's funny is you told me that you were losing your voice and everything, and then this week I woke up Monday and my voice sounded weird. I didn't feel bad, I just sounded weird. And it took a couple of days, so thankfully today I think I sound normal. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
We're going to start in three, two, one. Welcome, everybody, to Geekvice, episode 277, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph. That man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
We are back for another episode. It has been way too long, but you know, real life gets in the way, and then we're traveling, and then we record one, and then I get sick, and then it's just been a mess, man. It's
That's
been
what
a
we do.
mess. Yeah. Real life needs to stop so that we can keep recording podcasts. You know what? Honestly, if the real life would stop, I could record a lot more podcasts. But, you know, for some reason, the money thing. So speaking of that, I was laughing because my wife was doing doing our taxes um, yesterday, I think. Yeah, yesterday, and so she was putting in all the stuff and all the deductions on TurboTax and all that, and but she didn't have my pay information for my real life job. She had my coach's pay information for the soccer teams that I coach, but not my actual like day job. And she's like, man, you know, until like we were getting a whole bunch of deductions before I put your actual pay in there. And I'm like, so are you telling me I need to quit my job and just be a soccer coach and podcaster? And she's like, no, the deductions will not make up for the amount of money we would lose. Like, okay, fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, I would love to just do this full time. So if anyone wants to pay my salary so that I can do this full time, I would really appreciate that. Please email us at geekvice@gmail.com.
Nothing like a good Hail Mary to start off the podcast.
I mean, hey, if you don't ask, that's what my mom always said, you know?
Yeah, if you don't ask, the answer's already no.
That's right. That is right. So how you doing, Kip? What have you been up to the last couple weeks?
Oh, well, let's see. 2 weeks ago at this time, I was in Florida, which did not suck.
True. Too bad you didn't wait until this week to be in Florida.
Or was it 3 weeks ago I was in Florida? What's today?
Today is the 29th.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was low 80s for high every day we were there. I
That
still
doesn't
didn't get a
suck.
tan because I just don't tan. I was in the sun. You can't tell. Um, I ate like crap, but I went on 3 mile walks every day. I got home and I lost 5 pounds.
Oh, nice. Now
Yeah,
that's the way to
so
go on vacation, man.
yeah, so that was all good. And then So, a little travel story, I guess. So, the flight leaving Kansas City to go to Fort Lauderdale, um, we were just getting ready. We just started pulling out of the gate, and some lady starts yelling, "We need help! We need help!" And it was like 2 rows behind me and in the next aisle over. Um, she was shaking this guy, and he was just not moving.
Uh-oh.
It looked like he was dead, honestly. But he had suffered a seizure. He'd never suffered a seizure before in his life, is what he said. So luckily there was a nurse on board. She checked him out. We went back to the gate. They took him off the plane to have him checked out, and then we sat there. And then we sat there some more, and it's like, what the hell? Then finally we started backing out, and then we got going, and then the pilot came on to tell us his, you know, their normal spiel and everything. And then he says that the reason for the delay was the tow vehicle that pushes the plane out broke down.
Oh, man.
And it's like, okay, we've had a medical emergency and now that. So I figured, hey, if that's the worst thing that happens to us today, we're in good shape. And of course, we fly to Atlanta to Fort Lauderdale. Everything went perfect. Coming home, we flew home on that Friday. If you remember what Friday was like in Kansas City, you guys had an ice storm.
Yep.
So we fly from Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta, and it's like, well, let's see what they do. And we get there, and it's on an hour delay. It's like, well, that's not too bad. I'm watching the weather. It's like, it's supposed to warm up in the afternoon. They'll probably be able to, get us in sometime. They move it another hour. And I'm like, okay, we'll arrive in Kansas City like 2 in the afternoon. Not too bad. They raise it another half an hour. It's okay, all right, 2:30, still not too bad. And then they cancel the flight.
Oh.
It's like, you bastards. So we get in this great big long line.
Sure.
For customer service. And I have the Delta app. So I'm like checking the weather at all the airports nearby. Fayetteville had the best weather. It's a 4-hour drive from here for those people who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So on the app, I book a flight to Fayetteville. I exchange our tickets, so we fly to Fayetteville. Didn't cost me any extra. With the idea of we'll fly to Fayetteville, we'll rent a car, we'll drive home.
Sure.
So I put it all in, confirm the flight, and then it says you have to see a gate agent for seat assignments. It's like, what the hell is this? Did it not go through? So we finally get all the way through the line, and I tell the lady what happened, and she punches in my name. She goes, oh, you guys are very efficient. You got it all hooked up, and yeah, you just go to the gate, and they'll give you a seat assignment. It's like, all right, I guess so. I guess I got us all checked in and everything. So it's like, great. We go to the gate. He's like, yeah, you guys are in luck. There was 2 seats left on the plane, and they were side by side. So you guys get not only the last 2 seats, but you get to sit next to each other. It's like, wow, this is pretty amazing.
That's better than most of my flights when I plan ahead.
And it was a smaller plane, so there was only 2 seats on each side.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So we fly to Fayetteville, get in line, rent a car. He's like, it's a minivan. Do you mind? It's like, I don't really want to drive a minivan. So we got a Nissan Altima.
Okay.
Actually, a pretty nice car. I dug it. And so we drove home, got home about 9 p.m. Original flight had us home at noon.
That makes for one long day, man.
It was a long day. I got about halfway here between Fayetteville and here, and my eyes were just burning. It's like, oh my God. I'm not sleepy. My eyes were just so tired. It's like, this blows. But we got home. My wife is one of those that we can't just throw the suitcase down and go to bed. She's like, had to take everything out, put all the dirty clothes in the washer, all this stuff. And woke up the next morning. It's like it doesn't even it. Now everything just feels normal, like we were never gone at all. Do you ever
Yep.
experience that when you've been gone?
Mm-hmm.
It's like less than 24 hours ago we were in Fort Lauderdale, and now it feels like we were never there.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. There's a lot of vacations that I come home from, and like that next day, it's just like, man, like I feel like I'm just going back right into the routine. I don't want to go back to the routine. I still want to be on vacations. Can somebody
Exactly.
please keep me on vacation? But
Yeah, I highly recommend Florida in January. Well, I recommend it, but then again, the following week, I guess, is this week
last week.
or last week. Um, and it got so cold that they had warnings in the newspaper down there about geckos falling out of the trees.
Yeah, the weather patterns right now. Well, okay, so on that same note, the Super Bowl is this weekend. This is when we're recording this, the week before the Super Bowl, which, for anyone who actually cares, I'm pretty stoked because I'm a Chiefs fan. Um, but, so the Super Bowl's in Miami. The temperature in Miami is supposed to be 70 degrees at kickoff. It's supposed to be a high of 65 on Sunday here in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's right. It is. Holy
We're
cow!
we're only going to
Yeah,
be 5 degrees away from Miami weather in
yeah,
January. So I mean, real and honestly, just yesterday it was snowing. So
yeah. I was pretty pissed off when I woke up this morning and saw new snow on the ground. It's like, you got to be kidding me! I'm tired of winter. It's not even February yet, and I'm really sick of it.
yeah,
But
you got
yeah,
a long ways to wait. Well, I mean, you got till Sunday, and then it's not going to feel like winter anymore.
yeah,
So
there'll be spring for one day,
yeah,
which sounds right.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
the way it works. But
yeah,
oh,
it is what it is.
yeah, yeah. The traveling is that's a trip, really. That we had the same kind. I had the same kind of problems when I flying to Houston 2 weeks ago. I had to go to Houston for work, and I didn't have any problems flying back from Houston, but flying to Houston, I had problems getting out of Kansas City because the um, the what was their excuses? Well, one, the plane was delayed coming in from Newark, and so it was delayed getting in because of weather leaving Newark. So it was delayed a couple hours. We got on the plane, and then we're sitting on the plane. They're like, "Well, we're all ready to go here, except we need more fuel, and they can't open the manhole to hook up the hoses to the tank that's underground because it's frozen shut. So as soon as they get that fixed, then we'll be able to get some fuel, and then we'll get out of here." Great. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
fuel's pretty important.
got. I guess we gotta wait for that. Then,
Yeah.
then he comes back on a few minutes later. He's like, "Good news, they were able to get that fixed. We got fuel. We're gonna be getting out of here. We will have to de-ice the plane before we leave, before we hit the runway. Like, so bear with us, okay? All right." At this point, I have downloaded the Witcher Netflix onto my tablet. I downloaded 3 episodes before I left the house to go to the airport, and I had already started. As soon as I sat down on the plane, I started it with my headphones. I'm rewatching it for the second time, and I got through an entire episode before. By the time I sat down on the plane, before we even took off. That's how long we sat there waiting for it to be de-iced.
Holy cow.
Like, why, people?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it was. Finally, we were supposed to land in Houston, and it's a direct flight. We flew it directly from Kansas City to Houston, and we were supposed to land in Houston at 8, we got to the hotel at 11, 11 o'clock. Do you know how many places we didn't eat? The three of us that went down there hadn't eaten dinner yet because we were like, whoa, we'll just eat dinner when we get down there. Well, when everything kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, we didn't have anything to eat. So three of us were hungry. Do you know how many places are open at 11 o'clock at night?
Nothing good.
Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks was the only thing open, and luckily it was right next to our hotel. So we walked to Twin Peaks, and we were the only ones there. We sat down at the bar, and she looked at us. She goes, "Did you guys just get in?" I'm like, yes. We just landed. We just got to the hotel.
So were any females part of your group, or
no? It was three guys, three married men. Okay. Walking into Twin Peaks, sitting down at the bar, and going, and it was funny because you could tell that she has dealt with this before. She looks at us. She goes, "Do you guys want something before the kitchen closes?" Like, yes, please. It's like, right on. She's like, we got freshly cooked because they were just about done. Like, that was probably the best food that we had. That's the best food that I've ever had at a Twin Peaks. But yeah, it was. We finally got out of there. Of course, now, once we have food and a couple drinks in us, now we're sitting around talking about the training that we were gonna have to do the next day, and next thing we know, they're supposed to close at midnight. It's 12:15. They've turned the TVs all off. All the waitresses and bartenders have left. It's just one guy mopping the floor behind the bar, like just waiting for us to leave. Like, sorry, dude, we're out.
I always feel bad when that happens, but it sounds like you guys really had no choice.
Oh, we really didn't, and we just got to talking and didn't even pay attention to what time it was. So, but we let them close down, and we went to bed. But yeah, it was a trip. Flying can be a pain. I like doing it because how quick it is, but I don't like doing it because of how slow it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's why I'm glad most of my travels for work are within driving distance. At least I feel like I have some control over my schedule.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the whole getting to the airport, a couple hours in advance so you can make sure you get through security, but then security, there's nobody there, so security is really light. You fly through it, and then you're sitting waiting for a while. It's just like, that's just a pain, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But so, enough about that kind of stuff. How about we get into let's start with some board game stuff, and then we'll get into some book stuff. How about that? Sound like a plan?
A plan.
All right. So, played a bunch of games over this. These are actually played them about a month ago now, because we were going to talk about them at the last podcast that we had, but or before we went on vacation, or before you went on vacation. But we just had so many other things to talk about, we just didn't have time for it. But I wanted to talk about these because I thought it was very comical the way these games all played out. So it was me and my two boys, playing these games, and I told them, like, hey, grab whatever games you want, we'll play them, no big deal. So first thing that got grabbed was Flashpoint Fire Rescue. We've talked about that game on here before. I love that game. Fun, cooperative, firemen trying to stop a burning building from, rescue people. Don't let the house burn down type thing. In that game, there are explosions that damage the walls, and if too many walls get damaged, then the house collapses and you lose. We lost that game in like record time because we just happened to every time we rolled the dice to see where the fire was going to spread to, it was like the same spot 4 times in a row. And and that was an explosion that kept blowing out walls in like this small little area. So like one corner of the building, it was like in the bathroom or something. Like apparently there was a lot of, chemicals in there that kept exploding, and so the house fell down really, really fast. So I was just like, man, okay, let's play a different game now. Go find a different game. Maybe we'll have some better luck. So what do they go grab? They go grab one of my favorites, Witch Slapped, Prolific Games game. Yeah. The guys at Prolific Games came up with this. It's a fun little, quick set collecting game where you're passing cards and trying to get the right number to cast a spell on your opponent. I played 1 round, and I was out. You start with 9 lives, and I think it's 9, yeah.
Yeah.
You start with 9 lives, and, apparently I was completely out of it tonight. That night, I couldn't get any matches. I think I had a pair. But then when we started slapping cauldrons, the only cauldron I could slap was the 4-5 cauldron, which if you slap the cauldron that has a higher number than you have matches, you take the difference in damage. So I took 2 damage just because of that. And then on top of that, I got attacked by both of my kids because they thought each of them were going to attack the other person, and they didn't want us to do that. So they both attacked me instead. So, yeah, I lost 9 lives in 1 turn.
That's impressive. I mean, I'm sure it was painful, but that was impressive.
I tried not to be angry. That's what it was. I got done, and I'm like, well, that was worthless. Why did I even play this game? Why am I playing any games tonight? So the boys finished that one out. It ended up becoming more fun because the 2 of them actually battled back and forth a little bit, and that was fun to watch them go back and forth. And then they brought out another game called Rubik's Race, and this game is a game that I don't know where we got it from, but think of it. You remember the old puzzle games that you would get? There was a board and it had all these squares on it that slid around. There was one empty spot and you tried to make the picture.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that's what Rubik's Race is. You have this board that's actually, what is it? 5x5 grid with one hole is open, but all the colors are the same as a Rubik's Cube. So it's all yellow, green, white, blue, yellow, red. I don't know. There's 6 colors.
Okay.
So, and you have 4 of each of these colors, and each person has a board. And what you're trying to do is there's a kind of like Boggle. They have the little box with pieces in it that you shake up and then you put it down and it's got all the letters. I think that's Boggle, right? I don't know.
Yes.
So they have the same kind of thing, except it's a Rubik's Cube and it's a 3x3. Okay, so however you shake it up and you set it down, and that's the pattern that you need to make 3x3 in the center of your board. You cannot pick up the pieces. You can only slide them around, and first person to get that done wins. Super simple. Yep, first time I played it, lost in a second or two to my 10-year-old. He punked me hard. I was at that point okay, I lost Flashpoint as fast as humanly possible. I lost Witch Slapped in 1 turn, and now I'm getting punked in seconds by my 10-year-old. I was done. I'm like, I quit. I'm not playing any more board games. I'm gonna sit here and just cry myself to sleep and maybe drink a beer. Like that. Apparently,
Yeah, it
board.
was not a good night for you.
No, 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 it wasn't. So I mean, that was that night. The Rubik's Race game though was actually a lot of fun. I didn't quit. I kept playing, and it was I got to the point where I started actually being competitive, and maybe even won a couple times. So that at least made me feel a little better. But man, starting off that thing, going, oh yeah, I can do this, and him beating me that fast, I was just like, oh, this is just cruel. Um, so then another board game that we ended up playing, this was actually an adults only board game that we played. We played the game Codenames.
Oh yeah, I played that.
Played Codenames. So it's, have cards out there with words on them. You have codemasters that are trying to give clues. Can give you a number and a clue, and you're supposed to pick as many, like, that number is tied to the number of agents or the words that are on the board that you're trying to get your team to guess. This was 3 families that were playing this game, and we decided to break it up guys versus girls. First of all, I'm never doing that again. Second of all, I'm just never playing Codenames again. I suck at that game. I am terrible at it. We played 3 rounds. We the guys lost every time. The Bo, actually, I guess there was 4 families there. Bo, so we played. Yeah, we played 3 times, 4 times, because each person played as the codemaster. So we played 4 times. The only time we were close was when my buddy Bo was competing against his wife, Farah, as codemasters, and we actually were close on that one. I think we got really close to winning that time. After that, not even close. And when I was the codemaster, we didn't get a single one right. Because
Dang.
I am terrible at it. I do not make connections between words. Like, apparently I am not a wordsmith. So, now I've played the picture code names. I have Marvel code names here at the house, and I've played that one. And I actually do a little bit better at that one because it's something that I know a lot about. And it's pictures, so you can make connections like, hey, these 4 cards have green on them, so if I say green 4, then they'll pick those 4 cards. Like, I can make that connection. I do not make connections like stick to a baseball game. I don't, like, that doesn't work for my brain.
Okay.
Apparently, I'm just terrible at it. I don't know. Maybe I need to play it more, get more practice. I don't know. 4 times was not enough for me to feel like I was any good. So, I suck at code names. If you're playing code names and you need somebody on your team, do not call me.
Or if you need somebody on the other team, then call you.
Yeah, yes, because whatever team I am on, I will be a handicap. Because apparently I am handicapped. It was, you know,
Well, sometimes you have a board game malfunction, I guess.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but that was 4 games that I just were and this was all like really close together that all this happened. 3 of those all happened on one night, and then Codenames wasn't that much before that. So I I went through a streak of where apparently board games just didn't like me. I upset the board game gods, apparently, and so I'm trying to make amends. I'm not really sure how to do that.
Yeah, you may have to, light some candles and do some sort
Sacrifice a
of
goat
ritual.
or right. I I don't know anymore, but man, I got to figure something out. Another one other thing that I want to throw out there on the board game front, I have started keeping track of my board games that I'm playing in 2020. So I've downloaded the Board Game Geek app on my phone, and I've added things um, to my collection on there that we have, and then I'm starting to keep track of my plays. So kind of curious to see how many games I actually end up playing in a year. So
Yeah, I use that app. It's pretty nice.
yeah, I kind of like it. It's fun.
Yeah,
It's kind of a
it
pain.
is.
It's a pain to add stuff to my collection. I wish I could, or um, yeah, the filter thing on my collection is kind of wonky and hard to. It doesn't like scroll the way I would think it would, but who knows? But it's operator error.
Yeah, it. I don't know. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but I keep track of every game I play
Yeah,
and put in who won, who participated, all that good stuff. So
yeah,
I've got stats going back a while.
yeah. It's I kind of wanted to do it just to see like how many board games we play because there's some board games out there that I want to get that cost a little bit more money than what I would normally spend on a board game.
Yeah.
And if I can show that we're getting a lot of play out of board games, then maybe she'll let me spend a little bit more money on one of those. So I don't know. Trying maybe,
Why
maybe
not?
can't hurt, right?
Yeah. Then, maybe one day you could actually show up to my board game night and
Yeah. I really need to do that sometime. I got to get it to where it works with my schedule. this
yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah, it is definitely difficult, especially right now. So, um, yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see if I can't break away and find some time. So, all right, Mr. Kip, let's talk. Let's talk about your vacation and your book that you read on vacation.
Yeah. So it all started about a month ago, maybe longer ago than that. I was, as I do, scrolling through YouTube because why not? And came across this YouTube channel by these people. Their channel, I think, is called Planet Weird. And they have like a documentary series called Hellier. I think I've mentioned that I was going to talk about this. So it's this group of paranormal investigators who get these emails that are kind of weird, and they finally decide they're going to Hellier, Kentucky to check it all out. And as they're checking things out and doing all this stuff and doing all this investigation stuff, things start tying into the Mothman stuff. And me being me, I can't help myself. I need to know more. It's like, all right, what is the deal? You know, all the stuff they're saying, is it accurate? Is it real? That kind of thing. So they referenced a couple of books, one of them being, the Mothman Prophecies by um dang it. I
John
hate it when I do that.
by
I
John Keel.
before the what's that?
John Keel.
John Keel. Before we even recorded, I'm like, I had all this memorized, and of course now it's gone. But anyway, Mothman Prophecy by John Keel was one of them. And it's like, we're going on vacation. We're going to be hanging out at the beach a lot. I need a book to read. So I checked it out from the library. So I don't know what you know about the Mothman prophecies, but I've seen little bits, stories here and there, so my knowledge was just bits and pieces of information out there, whether it's misinformation or whatever it is. That's all
Right.
I had.
Yeah. Well, the
So
the only the only bit of the Mothman prophecies I know is I have seen the Mothman prophecies movie starring Richard Gere and Deborah Messing. Um, that was in 2002. I have seen that movie. Now that was also like 18 years ago, so I don't remember a whole lot
yeah.
now. But yeah, so let's see what you got.
It sounded like a challenge. So anyway, with the limited knowledge I had, this is what I expected the book to be. I expected it to be a whole storytelling about how this Mothman like creature was terrorizing all these people, and then every time it showed up, bad things would happen. That's kind of the impression I got of the Mothman. So that's what I thought this book was going to be about. It totally was not. In fact, the Mothman is barely mentioned in the book at all. So why it's called Mothman Prophecies, I'm not 100% sure. They could have called it Indris Cole, and that would have made more sense because that name comes up way more than being called the Mothman, which, I'll get into that. So the book starts off talking about so I can't remember, is it Point Pleasant, Kentucky?
Yes.
That
West Virginia. West Virginia.
West Virginia, that this bridge collapses, killing dozens of people. Very sad. The book starts off with that. And it's like, all right, now they're going to talk about how the Mothman like prophesized this was going to happen. So that's what I thought I was getting into. But what precedes after that is just really a bunch of stories that seem completely unrelated until the end, when things start to kind of intertwine and you start getting to see how they're related.
Mm-hmm.
And then the book finishes with the bridge collapsing. So it starts right after the bridge collapses and it ends with the bridge collapsing. Everything else in between messes with you. Um, he's an author. He lives in New York. This is my favorite part of the book. I don't want to really ruin it for everybody, but actually the book starts off with a short story. And the story is of how these people get woken up in the middle of the night and there's a weird guy standing there with a beard. This is like late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's raining and it was just this eerie thing. Them telling the story like he's one of the men in black. And then the story turns to the author, John Keel himself, being a hipster from New York, driving in the rain. His car breaks down. He walks to these people's house and knocks on the door. So it's funny how, depending on your point of view, how this story could be told. So I thought that was fascinating. So that's setting you up for whatever's coming, that, take it for face value, I guess, is what he was trying to say. And then it's just all these stories. And the stories, a lot of them have to do really with these men in black showing up and freaking people out. In fact, there's stories in this book where you're like, holy crap, that was freaky. And
Mm-hmm.
I read It by Stephen King and didn't affect me at all.
Right.
Did not even come close to scaring me or anything like that. But there were some stories that came out of that, and it's like, ooh, yeah. There was one that even made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. So, with all that said, um, there's all these stories that deal with these guys in suits out of place in rural Kentucky and West Virginia, showing up everywhere, following people around, threatening people who've seen things. Um, a lot of the stories have to do with they saw the UFO or the Mothman or whatever it is they saw, haven't told anybody, and then like within hours after the sighting, maybe within an hour of the sighting, these people in suits show up and threaten them not to tell anybody. And they're like, how the hell did you even know I saw it? I told no one. I saw it, came into the house, and then here you are. You know, those kind of stories. And then there's stories about this guy named Idris Cold who kind of looked human, kind of didn't look human. A lot of these stories, these men in black are kind of like Idris Cold, like they're not comfortable in their skin, like
Hmm.
maybe they're wearing a human suit. They're struggling with the language. Sometimes they'll interview people like they claim they're from something, like from the FBI or something, and they're interviewing these people and they just ask weird ass questions, and a lot of it is incoherent. It doesn't make any sense. They name drop so to make you think, to be comfortable with them, but they're just so odd. Most of the stories are about that. So, if you're into the paranormal at all, I highly recommend reading this book. Um, I'm a slow reader, but I finished the book on vacation. We were on vacation for 5 days. I finished it before the vacation ended. So, slow reader me was able to finish this book in less than a week. Somebody who has at least average reading ability will be able to get through this pretty fast. Um, I highly recommend it if you are into the paranormal, like I said, because it just brings some things up from a vantage point a little more closer to first account of it than you get nowadays.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you do a search on Google or whatever, and it's the internet. Anybody could put whatever the hell they want out there, So there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of whatever. But this guy was there interviewing people. Um, some of the stories happened directly to him, so it's first person. So um, it's a good read. It's a fast read. His writing style makes it easy to read. Um, it's freaky. It makes a person who's into the paranormal like myself all of a sudden start doing a hell of a lot more research. And it's really cool. It has rekindled my love of UFOs. That's why I just finished a book on CD today called The 37th Parallel about UFOs and cattle mutilation. So it kind of re-sparked all that. And it's just not the book you think it's going to be if you don't know anything about it. It's not really a book about a Mothman terrorizing people and prophesizing bad things. I
Yeah.
think Mothman maybe gets mentioned 5 times in the entire book. Maybe.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen the movie with Richard Gere. I want to see it now just to see if it's anything like this book. I read the synopsis loosely. It could be, but
Yeah.
we'll
It's
see.
Yeah, so it kind of the movie kind of uh think of the movie as like an an account of him researching the stuff for the book rather than a recreation like of the book.
So does Richard Gere play John Keel?
He plays a guy named John Klein, but he's supposed to
So
be
probably
he.
loosely based on
Yep,
John Keel.
yep. The it's supposed to like and this is based off of the IMDb page, but it says that the film claims to be based on actual events that occurred between November 1966 and December 1967 in Point Pleasant, as described by Keel. So this is supposed to be right in that time when Keel is in Point Pleasant finding this stuff out to put in the Mothman book. So, um,
Okay.
that's in the movies. It's it's weird. Just put it that way. It's weird. You know, much like the book, um, it's not what you expect. There's no giant creature in it. There's no like. It's more just weird things happening and why, and somebody trying to figure out what's going on. And so it has more of a feel of like X-Files, um, because it kind of has that same feeling like where X-Files is like something's going on and no one can explain it. And so we're going to go in there and try to figure it out. But we don't ever see what it is that everyone else sees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I didn't think it was terrible, but it's obviously that was a long time ago, and I haven't rewatched it since. So it's not like it goes high on my list of rewatching.
Well, I checked the streaming services. I have to pay for it, which I'm not going to do. So I'm going to check it out from the library and see all the hubbub is, because it was definitely not. Uh, there was no car accident thing like the synopsis of the movie says. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the car accident part in the synopsis of the movie, I think that car accident is really just to get the guy that's investigating it there. If that's like the MacGuffin to start the whole thing. Really has
Yeah.
nothing to do with it. But so I am not reading a book, but I am listening to an audiobook. I actually just finished it this week, and I after watching the Witcher Netflix series and playing Witcher 3, which I am very, very close to finishing that game. Super good. I decided to, well, one, I wanted to go read these novels that everything's based off of. The first book is called The Blood of Elves, and by Andrzej Sapkowski.
Sure. One
I
of
don't know.
those.
He's Polish, but so I went and found the audiobook for this and have been listening to it while I've been at work, and it's freaking amazing. If you enjoyed, so to put it in perspective, the Netflix series that is there, that is before this book. That covers a group of short stories that is called, in the books, called The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny. Those two books have collections of short stories in them that are fed into or make up the Netflix series. The Blood of Elves takes place about a year after what you see in the Netflix series. So Centra's already collapsed and all that stuff. You don't hear about that in the Blood of Elves book. Ciri and Geralt are already together. They're already in Kaer Morhen, and Geralt's training her to be a Witcher, and then finally realizes, some of the characters from the TV series or from the Netflix series, you start seeing the connection because they start showing up, and you make the connection with some of the sorceresses, like Yennefer and Triss Marigold and some other names. It's I forgot the name of the guy in the bard in the Netflix series because they don't refer to him in the same name. His name in the video game is Dandelion. In the book, it's Dandelion, and that's what he's referred to. So, but he's in there. It's all these people, or the names get brought up at least a lot, and so it's really good. I am stoked for the Netflix series after listening to this book because from what I've heard, the next season of The Witcher is going to be coming out of this book, and I can't wait for them to do that. I think it is going to be awesome. I won't spoil it because I know, Kip, you said you were looking to get this audiobook and
I
listen
have
to
it,
it.
and I start it tomorrow morning when on my drive to work.
So I won't spoil any of it. I'll just leave it at this. It is awesome. It is really good. And it is such a good book. Well, one, the guy who reads it, and I don't have his name. I didn't look up the audiobook credits, but the guy who reads it is amazing. He is an amazing voice actor. He does voice like you don't have to think about who's talking because he has a distinct voice for each one of them, even the women. Like his voice sounds different when it's Yennefer talking or Triss talking or Ciri talking, and it's a dude reading the book. Like, and when Geralt's talking, it sounds completely different when Visimir's talking or one of the other characters. Like, you can tell them apart, and it's the accent that he gives each of the characters or each of the races is just incredibly good. So
Nice.
highly recommend it. Really good, and the book is so good that after I finished it, I started playing, jumped back into Witcher 3 that night and was playing Witcher 3, and I was picking up details in the video game that they talked about in the book. And it wasn't because Witcher 3 takes place way after the events in Blood of Elves, but it was the description of the characters. It was little things that specific things that would recognize a character. I'm like, oh, I didn't notice that before. I'm sure it's been in the game, but to me it didn't mean anything because I didn't know that was her key characteristic. But in the book, since they talk about it, it really fits. So pulled out more details from the video game for me because of after listening to the book. So there is a reason why this has been turned into 3 video games, now a Netflix series that's already been greenlit for a second season. It's really good, and I've already started the second book. I finished the first one, and I've started the second one. So, highly recommend it.
I'm pumped about it. I can't wait to get started.
So, yeah. There you go, everybody. Well, we've got Mothman Prophecies. Go check that book out. Go check out Blood of Elves, the first Witcher novel. You can go check out some board games. All kinds of stuff for you this week. So we might have missed a week, but I feel like we've made it up for you.
We do our best.
We try. All right. Well, that sounds like a good place to end it up here. You got anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap this up?
Oh, man. We have so much going on, you and I, don't we?
We do. we totally do.
Yeah.
But hopefully we get back on our regular schedule of every week, and we are not looking to go to every other week. We will be pushing this out more frequently again. We'll get back on schedule, and
with any luck, we won't have all the nonsense we've had. So
right, I'm not planning on traveling anywhere for any extended periods of time. And maybe next week we can talk about the Chiefs being Super Bowl champions after 50 years. That would be so awesome.
Seems like synchronicity, doesn't it?
Yeah, right? We'll have to do something. So, all right, everybody, you know the drill. Go check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/geekvice. You can follow that man over there at Kip Killigan on Twitter. You can follow me at Geekvice. You can also go check out the YouTube channel. If you're listening to the podcast, go check out the YouTube channel. That's where you can find all of our old videos. You can watch us record live if you want, all through the YouTube channel. And of course, you can always email us at geekvice@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about the Mothman prophecies, or if you've read the Witcher books and what you think about them, how they fit. Let us know what you think. Other than that, thanks everyone for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next time.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.
Done.